What's up, everybody? My name is Indy, and that gentleman right over here, that's Mr. J. Powell from Powell Group Consulting, and welcome to Indie Game Business. Today, we have our amazing guests, Carla and Kinsey from Coven, and we are talking about Coven and the summer project, or the summer program with Facebook Gaming.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Jinx.
Carla, we gotta stop.
I know.
Yeah.
I just have to give a shout out. I just love our new theme song. And that was from
That was so energizing.
Show Wong Audio. We have like a real theme song now, and it's not something we ripped off the internet that's going to get us, DMCA. So, Carla and Kinsley, welcome to the show. So we always like to start out because nobody has the same, answer to this, and it's always something different. I want each of you to go through how you actually got into the industry initially, and then what you've done up to this point.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start because I think we'll tie it in the end. So I'll just do like a very brief overview of what I've done. So I actually started. I was really in the academic, like game studies area of all of video games. So during my undergrad, I studied that and media studies, and then slowly learned more about educational games and games for public health and things like that. Got an internship in a studio that was working in that space. And then after graduating, I joined the summer program that Coven ran last year, which has kind of inspired what we're running this year with Facebook Gaming. And in doing that, I obviously met Coven and was able to join the team. And so now I'm here working as a producer with them. Yeah, I'll talk about that later, I'm sure. Carla?
What about you, Carla?
Yeah. So I actually started my career in financial technology. I joke that I was selling my soul. I knew that I always wanted to be in a more creative space. I loved video games, so I really tried to hustle to break into the industry, which was, and still is kind of notoriously difficult to do. But I started volunteering for some advocacy groups in London, like Bayman Games. And I actually think I had a very fortunate way of entering the industry because I was surrounded by a community of people that really cared about supporting people from marginalized backgrounds and them into the industry. So I had started to work on some personal projects. I actually did Coven's pilot Unity Development Bootcamp in 2019. So Kinsey and I are both Coven alumna, and we're both back, supporting the team because we really love the mission and our experiences through it. But I ended up landing my first job at Square Enix as a product manager based in London. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple of years, in addition to continuing all of the advocacy work.
All right, so I want to take a step back. Kinsey, you have a degree in game studies?
Yeah, so sort of.
That's a thing?
It is. Yeah, it's a whole field of academia I really recommend people look into if you're interested in. It's going to be a subset of like media studies or interactive studies, all these different studies. So I got my main degree is in psychology, but my university had like certificate and minor programs, and I studied media studies through there, and that was game studies. So
that's just hilarious to me. I'm still trying to get universities to do business classes and marketing courses, and we've already got game studies courses going on. It's like,
right.
That'd be a good one for me to go back and get. Anyway, all right. So that's not what we're talking about. That's just mildly interesting. And see, everybody in chat's already asking which university has that degree.
Yeah, I went to Northwestern University, and so that was one of their programs in their School of Communications. But I think, wow, you're right. Everyone is asking. I see now. But yeah, I know there are a couple of schools with really great media studies programs. Like I think NYU's got one. A lot of the California schools do. They're out there.
So tell us a little bit. Let's first start with Coven in general. What is Coven? What's the goal? What does it do? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, should I pick this up, Kinsey, and then you can
Yeah, I was gonna
chime
say.
in? Okay, cool. Yeah, so the way that we describe Code Coven is, well, we call ourselves the first global games accelerator for underrepresented talent. And I guess the way that we kind of try and describe how we operate is we have a Triforce, which is the academy, the accelerator, and the teaching studio, we're calling it. And through the academy, we offer online courses such as our famous Intro to Game Making course, which has been fairly successful. And this is really to reduce barriers to entry and support aspiring game developers who just don't know how to get started. And then we, through the accelerator, we offer programs such as the summer program, which I know we're going to dig into a little bit more, but that's to support people who already have a little bit of experience, maybe want to get to that next level, either get full-time roles in the industry or self-publish their own games, or find funding from publishers. So either become entrepreneurs or actually work in different studios. And then the teaching studio is a way for us to partner with existing studios so that our students and participants can actually work on projects that are live or in development. So we really focus on a holistic approach, not just giving like the technical and soft skills, but also making sure that people get practical experience and actually have that relevant, for the experience to be able to succeed in the industry.
Hmm.
So from that, you've got you did the summer program last year, obviously. And this year you've gone out and partnered with Facebook to get this done. So how did all of that come about? What did you learn from last year? There's a lot of questions we can get into here, but let's just talk. All right. So first, so what are you doing during the summer program?
Yeah, so oh, sorry, Carla. I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
cut you off.
I was going to say, please go ahead, Kinsey.
Totally. So this year, we were partnering with Facebook Gaming to do an 11 week long incubator for, again, like Carla said, developers who are kind of at that entry level or looking to transition into the industry, maybe from a different discipline or another industry. And it's a very holistic look for everything, but that has to do with game development, really from pre-production and prototyping all the way through pitching to publishers, doing crowdfunding, what live ops and live dev could look like. And the goal really is to bring in all this like incredible talent who otherwise might not have, the access and the networking and all of these things you kind of need to break into the industry, which you don't always have before breaking into the industry. And delivering it also with this package of deep community care and investment in their well-being and their growth as people. And so I think that's something that Code Coven really specializes in and focuses in is, we want to help you succeed and do great at your art or your business, but we also want you as a person to, be thriving. And so I think that kindness kind of bleeds through everything that we do. And so the summer program, is really a crash course in everything, and is a really great opportunity for these entry-level developers to make the connection, make a game that they're excited about, and help figure out what their next step and what their trajectory is going to look like.
So when you get started, when somebody comes into the program, are there different tracks or specialties that they can look at, or is it, everybody takes the same course load for the summer?
Yeah, so the way that we curate the cohorts is actually we band together the multidisciplinary teams. So throughout the application process, we will determine, or the application review process rather, we will determine, everybody's interests and backgrounds and try and put together teams and curate them so that people are working and collaborating with peers that have similar goals so that they can create their projects based on, shared experiences and objectives. So that's kind of, but in terms of following the same track, yes, as Kinsey alluded to, like we take the cohort through a traditional, condensed version of, a game dev life cycle. So starting from pre-prod through to launch. And we have milestones. So, every few weeks, we'll get mentors to come in and review the milestone deliverables. So it kind of simulates that real industry experience.
Real industry experience is not necessarily a wonderful thing sometimes, but that's what we're trying to fix. So is it all online? What is it based out of? How is it actually? What are the logistics involved?
Yeah, so it's entirely online, and was, Coven's always been an online and remote based, boot camp. And so the structure of the summer program with Facebook Gaming is 30 hours per week, and a couple of those hours are dedicated right to these sessions with our guest lectures or our workshops where you're learning these skills, you're getting feedback on your work, and the rest is completely flexible with your team. So we, as part of the program, we talk about team agreements and what, healthy work-life balance could look like, and we help teams kind of set up what is that regular working schedule that's going to work for you, while also, again, having like that hard stop and having a clear end of day so that everyone, we're very pro rest, as well as, learning and making incredible work. So yeah, it's a mix of schedule and a lot of flexibility.
So yeah, that's a lot. 30 hours a week. That's is it all live, or are there aspects are recorded, or how is that structured?
Yeah, so sorry, Carla, if you want to take this, actually, we can keep hopping.
You're doing great.
Thanks, Carla. So yeah, it is the co-working and like the individual hours you're spending on your project. No one's required to like log in or report or clock in. It's definitely like kind of self-regulated. The sessions themselves are live and mandatory so that you get to, meet the guest lecturer or work with us, ask questions. And then we do record them as well so that the cohort can regularly refer back as they're doing their work. But yeah, it is, we decided on 30 hours so that it's a full-time or almost a full-time project. And for that reason, we also are including a stipend for all the cohort members to kind of rate to compensate them for some of their time and hopefully allow them to, do the program.
All right, well, so that's awesome right there. So what is the stipend? How much do they get?
Mm-hmm.
She wants me to take this. For transparency, the cohort this year would receive $2,000 per participant for the program. And so going back to your previous question, Jay, about like how we ended up partnering with Facebook and what we did last year. So actually last year, Tara, the founder and CEO, Francesca, the head of curriculum, and myself, we wanted to be able to support novice game developers whose career opportunities had been canceled due to the pandemic. We were finding that a lot of internships and other opportunities were canceled. And so we wanted to step in to be able to support. And then Francesca said, yeah, maybe we can run an accelerator program. She had that experience from the NYU Game Center's incubator. And we thought, oh, that would be amazing, but how are we going to fund it? Like how, because we'd also want to be able to pay out the students. And this was in April of last year, so literally a year ago. And we needed to raise all this money within a very short time frame, and so kind of hustled to be able to do that. And thankfully, there was a lot of support from many studio sponsors and partners, and we were able to get there in the end. But we're very grateful now to be able to have Facebook, who is supporting us for the entire cohort, so that I'm not losing too much sleep and trying to find additional sponsors. But I think that hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, it does.
Got a lot of sleep.
I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead, dude.
I was just saying, I hope you got a lot of sleep. And then I was going to drop the next question, but go ahead.
So the going out and finding sponsors is not an easy job. I know that from running our events as well. How did Facebook come to you all, or how did you get Facebook involved in all of this?
Yeah, I reached out to Facebook, just cold contacted with my spiel, with the pitch and everything that I wanted to do at Coven, and thankfully they were really interested and aligned. And or specifically trying to build out their diversity and inclusion programs with Facebook Gaming specifically. And so they sponsored us last year to be able to support some scholarships for our Intro to Game Making course. But they really loved the work that we were doing and said, we really want to partner with you and co-create something together. And so we thought that actually this is really well aligned. We want to do another summer program, and that was aligned with the demographics that they're trying to support as well. So I think overall it was just good synergy, and the timing was right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All right, go ahead, Dan.
All right, now question here. We have one in this question in the chat from John on Twitch says, if some is not marginalized gender, do they not qualify for the summer program?
Yes. So this program is specifically for anyone who is a marginalized gender. We do various programming that again kind of targets these different underrepresented groups in the game industry to help support them. And so they all have varying criteria, but the summer program is for marginalized genders.
I lost my next question. I have too many tabs open. Sorry. All right. So there's a lot of stuff that, where you can get educated in games. We do that. There's constant numbers of sessions and seminars and all of this stuff always going on. Why is this different? What are you doing to take this whole program and this initiative to the next level?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And I think kind of what I touched on earlier, we are really focused on kind of like the support for the rest of your career. So joining in any Code Coven programming isn't now you finished, now you're done, here's your certificate, goodbye. I think we're really dedicated to building that, personal relationship, and also being a resource for whatever your next step is. Even 10 years down the line, we want to still be able to help people with their next project. And so that looks like, we're helping teams practice publishing pitches or trying to connect them with new mentors as they, find needs and things like that. But also creating that community where they can help each other. We were really, I think, honored, blessed, amazed by how incredible our cohorts just have been, because there are groups of people who are genuinely so dedicated to wanting to make this industry better for everyone. And that means, they have friendships with each other, but they're also helping each other out, sharing opportunities. And so, really creating this ecosystem where the help doesn't stop at the end date. And similarly, you get to become a mentor if you would like to. And that's something that we also really stress is as you're learning and growing into the industry, you never have to reach a certain stage to also help out other people. So what does that look like? How could we help make good mentors and good leaders as well? So yeah, I like to think, as opposed to just taking a course and kind of being done with it, you're really signing into, if you choose, obviously, a community that's really there for you for as long as you need it to be.
I fully
Carla,
agree.
I think you have thoughts.
Oh yeah, no, I echo everything you're saying, Kinsey. I think we're not like some other, boot camps that might just be churning out cohort after cohort. We really want to put a lot of time, thought, and effort into our community. And as Kinsey said, right, that transcends beyond the graduation. And I guess Kinsey and I are sort of case in point. We both went through programs or Code Coven programs ourselves as students and are now back supporting the community. In terms of our mentor network too, we have at this point, I think almost 200 or over 200 mentors globally from, that, and they all hail from studios ranging from indie to AAA, and they really are amazing and dedicate so much time and effort to supporting all of our students. And they can participate in bespoke workshops and presentations as well. Whenever a student asks for specific support with, it could be a very niche specialization, we will try and find a mentor or someone in the community that can fill that gap. And I think that's something that's really powerful that might not always be easily accessible or available in other programs. Plus, we are, going back to the previous question and conversation, we are paying most of our participants and also making sure that we're making the courses as accessible as possible. So the price point for something like the Intro to Game Making course is not, from what we've seen compared to some other boot camps, is like not remotely as much. And then we're also trying to ensure that we can offer as many scholarships as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I really like about what you all are doing, and we just put the link in chat, in all the chats, for people to go to. This isn't something that's just like a fly by night. We're going to do it to see if it works and that sort of stuff. There are actual, honest to God, success stories on there that come out of, the first summer program that you all did. You've got developers who are in talks to get publishing deals. You got folks who did the camp and now they're working in the industry for somebody else. So I mean, I think that's fantastic that you're actually got things to show for what's been done, and it's only 1 year old. So that's just, I think it's really, really, really cool. So over the course of the summer, are they actually going to be creating a game, or is it just more class type stuff?
Yeah, it's an entire development cycle beginning to end. So we time our sessions to kind of be aligned with where they are in their development. But I know, so my team, for example, in this last summer program, we developed a game called Detours. And so we prototyped a couple games, picked this one, built it out alpha through beta, bug tweaking everything. And then we were able to ship it, only a couple months after the program ended. And so that was our personal goal. We really wanted to self-publish and learn what that process was like. And we were able to do it. And really almost all the main development happened during that program. But I know, even Tiny Baby Crown is working on this game Dungeon Crawler, and they're going to continue developing it and are in talks to pick a publisher. And that was their goal from the get-go. So I think what's really amazing is everyone will have a game, as a portfolio piece, if nothing else, but we're able to, as teams, kind of decide what our end goal is. And then Code Coven's like, great, we're going to get you there. And I think it's cool to see that happening.
Sorry,
so how
Kinsey,
was that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it cut out for me for a moment while Kinsey was speaking. So I'm not sure if she actually mentioned that her team self-published their own game, which I was trying to chime in and say earlier. So big kudos to Kinsey and her team, because they were able to publish that within less than a year of having finished the program.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually leading into my next question. It's like, so you do the summer course and the summer boot camp, Kinsey, and no matter how real you want to make it, it's always not exactly what you're going to face in the real world. What did you learn last summer that carried over successfully into self-publishing? And then, what did you learn by doing the self-publishing that you were like, oh, we didn't think about that part? That's
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. So I definitely think Code Coven set us up really well, again, with walking us through, this is the process of, getting on the Steam and things you'll need. And these are marketing tips and strategies we encourage you to have. But one thing that our team really just wasn't prepared for was how much of a nightmare using Steamworks can be. I don't know if any of you have experience with it, but the user interface is not. It is very confusing. So that's like a silly example. But I think by and large we knew what to anticipate really well. And I think our goals were really for us to say, we've shipped this game, we're on Steam. I know how to put a game on Steam. And so we weren't necessarily and I want to be on the front page and I want to do all of these things. So it was pretty streamlined. I don't think there was a huge gap of knowledge. But definitely just always in doing something, you always discover something new that no one could have even anticipated kind of giving advice on, right? But that's, I guess, one thing that I do really appreciate about Code Coven is that they are setting you up with everything, and then inevitably you'll find something that maybe you weren't anticipating, but you can always still go back and be like, how would I deal with this now? And we were able to do that throughout our entire process.
And that is so important to be able to,
Mhm.
one, just say you've shipped something, but then two, learning Steamworks backend is not, that's not a
Yeah.
trivial thing. If you don't know that, no matter how good your game is and how good your market is, if you don't know how to effectively put it on the store, then you're pretty much
Mhm.
screwed. So
Mhm.
it is one of those things, and it's not like Valve offers a lot of courses on this. Is how we post
Mhm.
something to Steamworks. So we did Dan and I hosted the East Coast Game Conference last week, and it was a lot of students that were there. And that's one of the themes that came up during the course of time. It's like, not only, yes, your degree is helpful, but at the same time, you have to have practical experience
Mhm.
shipping something and putting something on the market and going from there. So, I mean, do most of the folks coming in, are they looking at PC console games, or are there opportunities to learn about the mobile world as well? Because that's such a different world in general.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Carla, if you'd want to.
Yeah,
Like
so
it.
absolutely. So most of our participants in our accelerator programs have actually been developing across all platforms, primarily PC and console, but we do offer support for mobile developers as well. And with this specific program, it will depend, of course, because we haven't curated the cohort yet, but I know that Facebook has an extensive partner network, and they'll be bringing in a lot of experts within the industry to give workshops and classes as well. So as going back to my earlier point of saying that if there's a specific specialization or need or topic that's relevant to, let's say, only a couple of participants, we'll still do the work to try and ensure that we support them. We're running the accelerator for the IGDA Foundation right now, the Grant for the Web program, and people are also developing in XR for that as well. So it's been cool to see that we're able to help people develop across various platforms.
Yeah, we had Nika and Sarah on during our last conference, just prior to the big Grant for the Web, and I love them to death. They are absolutely so entertaining. So if someone out there has their own team, can they apply as a team, or does only one person from the team need to apply, or is everybody set up on randomized teams based on skill sets when they come in? How are the different cohorts actually created?
Yeah, so it's kind of like how Carla talked about before of matching interests and disciplines, to making sure we have these multidisciplinary teams that are also well aligned. And I know in the past we allowed for teams to apply collectively, and this year we are having everybody do separate applications, so that way we can, again, just kind of like best assess and best match everyone. So if there are like preformed teams, we can't guarantee necessarily that you'll be applying as a bundle, but definitely part of the application process can be mentioning, I have this previous experience, I really enjoy working with these people, and it's something that we'll be able to keep in mind when creating that cohort.
And in many ways, that's a good thing anyway, because it gets you, if you've been working with the same team for weeks or months or years, it kind of gets you out of that comfort zone a little bit and says, okay, work with a different group of people, build on these communication skills and do all that sort of stuff. So that's, I was just curious. Anyway, so, and I know we've talked especially a lot on this podcast about this issue, but we're going to do it again. Why is this important?
Silence. Sorry, Kinsey, I wasn't sure if you wanted to chime in. It's so there's so much to discuss when it comes to answering these questions.
And this is what we're going to be talking
where
about for the next 4 minutes. So go ahead.
So okay, I guess, well, from my perspective and my own experience, as I said earlier, about the fact that it's difficult to not just break into the industry if you're somebody from an underrepresented background, or also in general, but as we understand from the current demographic statistics of the global games industry, I think it's right now, and I don't know the accurate stats now, but it was less than 20%, I think, of game developers globally are women. And then obviously beyond that, it's a smaller portion of non-binary people. And then in the UK, I know that's where I'm based. So those stats I'm a little bit more comfortable with, but it's less than 10% of game developers are ethnic minorities, and less than 2% are Black. So, we're still very much predominantly, I think, white cis industry, which is, not always reflective of what the audience is, right? We know that the gamers globally are increasingly diverse, and they also care about things like representation. And sometimes you want to be able to authentically portray, content that's that is portraying specific subcultures. And so it's a really multifaceted challenge, right? It's because we're not just trying to increase representation within the industry from a game developer perspective, also through the content that's created. So I think that's why it's important to be able to, and that's what we're trying to do at Coven, right? We're trying to tackle this at all angles.
Yeah.
So there was a article that came out this morning, and I'm like frantically looking for it right now. As much as we hear the trolls on the internet jumping up and complaining and bitching every time something dares bring gender or race or anything quote unquote political into it, there was someone just did a survey, and it was like 66% of gamers would actively look for a socially conscious game, and it broke down all the different statistics, and it was at the end of it, it was like 2% will not play a game because it has social aspects into it. Games are very much a part of culture in general now. It's not like we're just off in the basement doing our own thing anymore. We're in the living room doing our own thing now. It is important to get it out there, and these types of programs, are a necessity, because it is. I mean, I know from going and doing our own speakers, it's like we work really hard to make sure that we've got a diverse group of speakers at each one of our conferences, and it's not easy, because it's one of those things that representation does matter, and if you don't consistently give people opportunities and let them know that they're not alone and they can do this and there's a support group, it's not going to change. I mean, it's not like that the industry just got to the point where there are more than 50% of gamers are women. It's been like that for years, and we're still not there. So it's awesome that you all are doing that, but it's very much a representation thing. So going into your second one, what did you take away? What did you learn from the first summer program that you're applying to this one?
Yeah, that is another good question. I think probably one of the biggest things that we took away is that building in that time for how do I best describe this? Building in time for rest is something that is incredibly important, and we talk about regularly and encourage, but I think when you still have all of these outside factors of like you said, like breaking into the industry is so difficult, that everyone feels it and really feels like I need to be doing the best that I can, because otherwise I'm not, there's so many other people looking for the same roles. And finding that even, saying and reminding and really trying to teach work-life balance and separation of yourself and your value from kind of the things that you create, that the pressures are so strong that people, are excited to and want to work that extra mile and make that incredible product. But then we also, want to remember, if we're constantly doing 110%, that extra 10% is coming from your future self. So maybe this is actually just me speaking as a former participant and like realizing that, but yeah, I think we're really going to kind of take that extra time to really nail down, like, what does it mean to be working healthily, and what does production and that output actually look like, and how is that affected the more and more you kind of go over time. Yeah.
I mean, it's not just you. It's a very serious, and it's, in some cases, it's a case of we're our own worst enemies in this industry because we love doing this. And, you know, last week, I heard several speakers talking about how, you know, they work a 40, 50-hour week at their real job, but then they go home and they work on their game at night. And so at that point, you're pulling a 78-hour week sometimes. It is very important to take a step back and go, okay, how can we do this effectively? And I think that's where a lot of these programs at universities and colleges fall flat. Is like they don't have classes in production. We know they don't have classes in business and marketing. That's my personal rant. But anyway, this stuff isn't taught. And, you know, there's no one place in the industry we can point and say, okay, it's this group's fault that we have crunch. You know, it's everybody from the executives down to, you know, the QA teams and the interns who are sitting there and looking and scorn at somebody because they want to go home and spend time with their family. You know, it isn't something that just comes from one place. And so being able to teach that, I think it's very important, and being able to show that, okay, look, it's not just that you can work 60 hours a week and make a great game, because you won't. I did it when I was younger, you know, and so, you know, as you learned that yourself last summer, you know, how did you take that and apply that to the game that you were working on, and what you've done since then?
Yeah, so I know my team was especially really interested in rectifying this balance. That was a goal that we had set from actually day one of we had never met each other. Was like, I want to be able to turn this, you know, off, and I want to be proud of what I'm doing, but I also want to be aware. Also, the timing of the first program was, you know, very early in quarantining and all of the huge social and life adjustments that were coming from that. So we were very aware of, you know, our varying energy levels and pushing ourselves too hard in a time when we're already spread incredibly thin. And so I think it was one thing that we really took away was that it's never a finished process. Like, you're never going to find the exact hour and the exact way of communicating and know it's, you know, now I'm done, this is how we do it, and we'll be healthy for the rest of, you know, the 8 months of production. It is continually something that you need to check in on and ask people how they're feeling and what they need, because, you know, humans aren't constant. Things happen, and even if life events aren't happening, your body still goes through cycles, and you go, you know, through cycles, and nothing is kind of steady in the way that would make it super easy as a producer. And so it means taking the time and investing your resources in genuine check-ins and having flexibility built into your development, you know, timeline from the get-go for a lot of it, you know, because so many things can happen. So I think part of, again, this issue of I need to be making things all the time, because if I'm not competitive, I won't get the job, and I need a job to live. And this kind of cycles into not feeling like, you know, you can take that rest because you can't afford to. And it's a very, very real issue, especially for, again, kind of a lot of these people trying to break into the industry or who don't already have all these resources. And it's a very tricky thing to figure out. So I think my team especially, you know, all of us were going to be unemployed after we had this real kind of looming thing that we needed to deal with. But we also were like, I'm not willing to, yeah, like ruin my health or my day-to-day life kind of to achieve that. So what can we do to make that game that we need for our portfolio and for our future, while also enjoying making it? You know, like, happiness shouldn't come 2 years after making a game. You should enjoy the process, you know, day in, day out. So yeah, that's kind of my big rant about it. But that was something that we learned a lot.
No, it's a wonderful rant, and I will chime in in a moment. But first, I want to let Carla. So, what's your take on that side of on that question?
I was going to say I completely concur with everything Kinsey's just mentioned, and from my perspective, as I was helping drive a lot of the mentor activities, and I think just the education around what the mentorship looks like, within Coven, and ensuring that mentors are really aligned with our values is very important to us, and that they will also be integral to helping the teams iterate through and define what that development process looks like, and how you can take care of yourself, because they're used to it, right? They've been working in the industry, they've been actively there, and they've experienced the highs and the lows of it. And so I think we last year didn't have too much time, since we only had a couple of months to curate the whole program, to really nail down what the mentorship process would look like. I mean, we had fantastic tour, and I mentioned we're simulating the milestone reviews, but we also want to make sure that it's not that traditional publisher developer relationship that might be, that perception of, okay, we're kind of like in a work for hire type thing. It's more about nurturing and community, and giving constructive feedback, and ensuring that it's not at all hostile or anything like that. Not that it would be, because within Coven it's not, but just I think in terms of a takeaway, right, just iterating through that, making sure that mentors are aligned, and I'm excited to see how it'll transpire and pan out this year, because I think we now have this fantastic group of mentors that we can pull from, that we know have already had experience with our cohorts previously and are actively in our community. So I think it'll be even bigger and better.
I think Carla already knows this very well, but Kinsey, I'll just reiterate, and so it's not just the people that are going out there and trying to find their jobs. This is an issue, without being specific, at 40-plus-year-old people who have been doing this for 20-some years, and they're managing a consulting firm and a podcast conference, whatever. We all do this. I mean, it's one of the bad parts of being in an industry that you love, is you just keep doing it, and you never feel like you've done enough, and then it catches up with you in one way or another, and you have to learn a very horrible lesson, either personally or professionally, because you did let it catch up with you and you didn't take those breaks. So from the producer standpoint, especially with everything that the pandemic has brought, and how, even though we are, fingers crossed, on the way of coming out of this, what can producers do? What can team members do to check in on other people, other than just saying, because a lot of times you say, hey, so how are you doing? And they're like, I'm fine, but you're not. So how can you manage your team's mental health, and what sort of steps can you put in place with your team to make sure that people are taking time to do what they need to do to take care of themselves?
Yeah. So I guess this is, I'll answer in my producer side in a second, but coming from my psychology degree, I would say if you're in the position, especially as a team lead, or, working higher up in any kind of company, giving your team the material resources to seek, like therapy if they like it, is, I think, probably like a number one thing, because obviously, as friends, as teammates, as coworkers, there is a lot of material support you can provide. But if you're not a trained therapist, you're not a trained therapist, So I always recommend that enough, providing that as an option, and making that accessible. But then when it comes to production, again, thinking how a lot of different people communicate, because some people just don't want to talk about how they're doing with work, and that's something you have to respect, but you also still want to give them a way to get what they need without having to necessarily open up and share if they're not comfortable. So I think I've seen a lot of people do things, kind of having a no questions asked policy, and then also modeling that. So again, if you are a lead on a team, if you are a producer, saying, hey, you can take a day, at the top of the day, and you don't have to say why. You should do that, because if if I'm on a team and I'm seeing no one else is taking vacations, I'm not going to feel comfortable doing that, even if I know it's an option. So I think it's definitely a lot to ask for, but that's kind of part of leadership, is modeling those options. So I think that'd be a good tip. I don't know if you have one as well, Carla.
We need to clone Kinsey. That's all I can say. Kinsey is the most phenomenal producer that I have had the pleasure of working with, and she holds me accountable, but also makes me feel completely comfortable. And it's just, yes, please, everybody should hire Kinsey, but also not, because we need to keep her forever.
I mean,
so there's a comment right here from Calix. I asked for bad news lately.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just like, how's your day? Just ask for, okay, you got any bad news? That's a little hardcore, but you know, what do you think about that?
I mean, it depends. If you've got kind of, again, that team energy where you can candidly talk about bad news and understand, you know, it's no one's your responsibility to fix it, but we've all agreed and are on the same page of wanting to listen. You know, getting that individual buy-in and understanding how much emotional support people can afford to give and want to give. But if you got a space where people are like, tell me your bad news and let's just like commiserate and let's, you know, validate each other like that. If it works, it works, you know. And then that's kind of the thing with production, is everybody's different, and it takes time to iterate and figure out what will actually help people. Yeah. That's my thought, at least.
She says that the answer they give gives a sense of how they're doing. And that's a good point. I mean, it's one of those things, like, you have to press sometimes. It's a very American thing when somebody asks, so how are things doing? How are you doing? And no one really elaborates. And then when someone does elaborate, you're like, whoa, wait, hold on. Wasn't ready for that, didn't care, you know, I was just being nice type thing. But it is, we don't have as much of that, you know, body language, and you can get a sense of how everyone's doing because you see them in the office. And, you know, so there's got to be other ways that you can, you know, find this stuff out, you know. And so asking about it and talking about it is the only way you can really do it.
Definitely. I think exposing vulnerability is something that really just humanizes us and will ultimately bring the team closer together. I definitely had that experience on my team at Square Enix, as an example. We would often just have casual, informal discussions, especially through the pandemic. Like, we all know that we're all is suffering its ebbs and flows, and this is a time that we really need to communicate and connect, and especially with the people that we're spending, you know, 60-70% or more of our time with. It's important to make sure that we're just robots.
So Zero Vapor brought up a good point. It's like, they say, I'm always forcing my team to take paid time off. Is that something that you two have found works, you know, in the process? It's like, okay, look, you've been going for 3 months, you haven't had any time off. Absolutely take some time off? Or is it, do you find more of the open policy about how, you know, we don't count vacation days? I'll admit that's our policy here. It's like, you can take as many vacation days as you want. I don't care. You know, it's we're not counting them. But the reality is, people don't end up taking them. And that's where a lot of these issues lie. So, I mean, how do you see that balance? I mean, do you recommend someone just, you force it on them? Or is it one of those that you kind of step back and let people police it themselves?
Yeah, I'd say from my point of view, again, this is kind of that idea of, you know, what are you saying, and then what are you maybe accidentally kind of enforcing, and something that we're thinking a lot about, and how to improve, because having this take as many days as you need is on paper 100% accessible and a great thing to do. But yeah, if you're feeling like you're not seeing other people do that, then if you do that, is that okay? You know, will people be upset with you? Will the work not get done? And so I think part of having, you know, a manager that is doing effective work is A, you know, telling people, hey, you're doing great work. And so B, because of that, I want you to take a rest, and I want you to go do, even if it's just staying in your house still, I want you to step back because I think you're doing great work, and you should rest because of that, and you should, enjoy something and mix it up. And similarly, if you do have that flex policy, I remember my very first internship. My team lead would be like, "Oh, I don't come in on Fridays because I want to have my Friday." And again, I was only an intern, so it's not like I was, holding the weight of our work on my shoulders. But seeing someone who is in charge of kind of my work and what my workflow is like, be like, I want to do this because I should, and I like doing that. And so you should take time too. Made that a much easier choice because it felt like that was the culture that I'm seeing performed around me. So.
To be clear, the problem over here is the fact that I don't take those time either.
Take a vacation. This is your last.
It's not like
interview.
I'm taking time off and no one else is. It's like I'm not taking it either, and then that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, Jay is like, well, we're working 14 hours today, but it's us. It's not just you. We're both doing it. And then, yeah.
That was only 12 hours last week. Okay. Oh. All right. So actually more than that because we had.
Yeah. But then Jay is like, okay. And I'm like, I got stuff I got to do. And he's like, okay, I'll handle it. So he ends up working more hours and lets me go. But you need a break, Jay. Go. You know what? Take a month off.
Jay, this is an intervention.
Yeah.
We've
really,
saved this entire
This is
interview.
an intervention right now. You heard it. Kinsey said it. So you got to do it.
It's true.
That's not me. That's something different. No, I know. Trust me. We're not even going down that rabbit hole. All right, so let's get back to you all. After last year, so what would you have in an ideal, perfect world? The cohorts come out of this summer session, and what's going to happen to make them just ridiculously successful, and y'all are going to be so happy for everybody? What's the ultimate goal?
I'd say Kenzie, go ahead. Or are you going to say something?
No, you go. I'm thinking.
Oh, no, in trying not to sound super cheesy, our goal is helping them achieve their goals, right? So at the beginning of the program, everybody fills out a self-assessment form where we actually ask the participants to say, it's 5 years in the future, what are you doing, right? And so we get all these great stories about what people, the studios that they're working for, the games that they publish, the conferences that they're speaking at, so it's all very exciting, and so we really want to be able to support them in getting to the next step toward that, right? And so that looks different for everyone, and we've seen it just with last year's cohort, right? We had the one team go off and look for publishers. We had one team self-publish. We had some people get hired to work at studios. We had some people come back to support Coven, and so it looks different with everyone. And I think we're not going to know until we know what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
That's always like that question that I absolutely can't stand. It's like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Not dead.
Mm-hmm.
So there's I don't know. I have a lot of questions that are flipping through my brain here, but is it something? So as more of these groups come out, and it's like Kinsey's team's game last year was published by Coven. Is
Mm-hmm.
Coven going to continue to do that for the games that come from these projects, or is it more of part of the training is to teach them and educate them on how to find a publisher after the fact? What's Coven's involvement in these projects going to be post summer session?
Yes, we are in stealth mode at the moment, thinking about how we can support our alumni with publishing, and we would absolutely continue to support any teams that would like to publish themselves but might not have the resources to do so. Otherwise, we would encourage people to do it themselves if they can, right? So we're more here acting as a support system, and yes, to become a full publisher, perhaps we'll see what Coven looks like in the future. But yeah.
So, and folks, if you've got, no matter where you're watching, if you've got a question, you want to chime in with something, drop it in chat. We'll see it in our handy dandy little aggregated feed here. But what advice do you give to folks who are filling out that application and applying?
Yeah, I'd say personally, we want to get to know you and your interests very candidly. Why are you excited about this? What is it you want to change? Why is this the right time and the right program for you? We are, of course, we look at people's portfolios and the things that they're doing, but part of Code Coven is, this community that we build, and this group of people who really care about each other and care about improving, everyone's lives in this industry. So I'd say personally, be honest, be yourself, be forthcoming. But yeah, we care a lot about having people who genuinely, care about each other and work on this industry. So don't be afraid to kind of let your personal feelings and what really motivates you shine in that application.
And it's for all aspects of development. They don't have to be a programmer. If you want to go and just be on the marketing side or the community management side or the art side, I mean, are all of those disciplines open for application?
Yeah, we're welcoming any discipline. You'll see on the application there's a couple that we like shortlisted to select, and then also from there, like an other to type in anything beyond there. So we've had people kind of be generalists. We've had people specifically do one kind of art. It really, it just depends on what skill set you're looking to bring and work within over the summer.
All right, so the applications are open. How long are they open? What's the deadline?
Applications are open until May 3rd. Did I just say the wrong date? Oh no, let me double check.
I think it's May 23rd, but so we both lack the knowledge right now. Sorry.
My brain is like, time's definitely not real. So
it's May 17th.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Jay knows and we don't. Sorry.
Thanks, Jay.
I cheated. No, wait, I clicked on the application. So
yeah, I knew I put it there. That's what I was frantically searching to pull up.
All right, but see, now that we have this up, so you need a CV, resume. Does anyone else in the world use the word resume except America? Everywhere else, it seems to be a CV. A portfolio, questions about your goals, your career goals, experience, so on. You do need either a written form or a video application. So you don't have to have a video application.
Yes, the video application is just for applicants who feel like they can express themselves. Better through speech than writing. Okay,
awesome. Then according to the website, it takes 7+ minutes to do it. So it doesn't take long. You get in there and absolutely jump in and apply. But this is one of those things that you can do and learn practical stuff for the game industry, and it doesn't cost you money. They're actually going to give you a stipend while you do it. So we highly encourage folks to get out there and, apply and spread the word. So, I mean, is there anything else that we can do from our side to help you all get everything out there and get everything set up?
I mean, already this has been fantastic, and I know I really appreciate, and I've had a good time just like going on here and chatting. So I think we definitely appreciate, giving us the opportunity to talk about this program and share. I don't know if Carly, you've got other things.
Yeah, I echo you, Kinsey. Thank you so much. And also, you should take a holiday. If there's something that if there's something you can do for us, it's to take a vacation, take a day off. No, but honestly, but just thank you. Just raising awareness about the program and continuing to support us in that way is very helpful.
All right. So from the other end of the spectrum, are you all still looking for mentors? I mean, for the folks out there who have been doing this for a long time and just want to share what they know, can they apply on that side as well?
Yes, absolutely. We accept mentor applications on a rolling basis. So yes, there is a mentor form that is currently open that we can share. there are some things that might be changing soon about it. But anyway, that's we'll share it with you so that anyone who's interested can apply. Or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Kinsey or myself. I think you've shared the socials and things, right?
Awesome. Any final thoughts from the two of you? Anything else you want to share?
No, I mean, just thank you so much. This has been a really great time. And it's exciting to hear about, all the important work you're doing as well. And it gives me faith in the industry to see all the really cool things people are doing.
Oh, Kinsey, you're still relatively new. We'll drum that out of you sooner or later. Don't worry about
I'm sorry. I still have hope. No.
Tainted with the industry.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Look, if you are from an underrepresented group, I'm not even going to run through the entire list because inevitably I will leave somebody out and get in trouble. But go and apply. We've got post the link one more time. I'll cheat and give the link directly to the form. It's quick and easy to do, and you have a chance of learning some really, really good stuff and not costing an arm and a leg to do it. Thank you all so much for coming on. We sent you all the alumni, all the folks in the Coven family. We've got you a discount to our next event, which is scheduled for June 15th through 17th. We are signing up speakers right now. So if you want to be a speaker, go to indiegame.business and click on the speaker link and submit it. That's an ongoing thing. And we always want as many voices and as many different voices as we can get in that. Then
and we're closing off entrances 2 weeks before the conference.
Yeah, right.
Because the people in the game industry, there's a conference. I'll wait till like a day and a half before, and then I'll sign up. Yeah, that's just what we do.
That's not ever going to happen. Next week we've got Chris Failer, who is going to be talking about the marketing side of the industry and marketing games, and he's done a lot of great work over the years with things like Borderlands and other titles that you may have possibly heard of. And he's also teaching one of our Workshop Plus. So, that information is on the site as well. Andy? Discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. That's where everything is. And this is going to be up as a podcast, anchor.fm/indiegamebusiness. It's going to be live in just shortly, just here soon in the 30 minutes, probably. Mm-hmm. So you can go back and listen to it, or you can go, if you missed this whole thing, you can watch it on Facebook, on Twitch, on LinkedIn. There is a ton of places to watch. And I believe that's it. Thank you so much for coming on here. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
We will see you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.